Ever have that feeling deep down in your gut that something just ain't right? Like a chill that crawls under your skin even on a warm night? Yeah, that feeling. Well, what if that feeling wasn't just in your head? What if it was real? And what if it was just the beginning of something way darker than you could ever imagine? Get ready, because this is about to get real weird, real fast. You know, life throws you curveballs. Sometimes they're softballs, easy to knock out of the park. Other times, they're like fastballs aimed right at your head. For me, lately, it felt like I was stuck in a batting cage facing a pitching machine set to lethal. My days, or rather, my nights, were a blur of stainless steel and lukewarm chafing dishes. I'm a caterer, not exactly what Little League me dreamed of. Back then, it was astronaut, then maybe rock star, and somewhere in between, briefly a professional wrestler. But life, as it often does, had other plans. Catering it was. And honestly, it wasn't terrible. The pay was okay. The people I worked with were mostly decent, and there was a certain rhythm to it. The chaotic rush of setting up, the controlled frenzy of service, the slow, tired wind down as we packed everything away. The rhythm was there, but the spark? Yeah, the spark had long since fizzled out. The hours, though. The hours were brutal. Most of our gigs were evening events, which meant my workday started when normal people were clocking out and ended when the city was starting to yawn and stretch before dawn. My sleep schedule was abstract, to say the least. Most nights, I'd stumble back to my apartment, either buzzing with nervous energy from gallons of industrial-strength coffee, or so utterly depleted I'd collapse onto the mattress and sleep like the dead for 12 solid hours, only to wake up feeling like I hadn't slept at all. This particular night, I was running on fumes and cheap gas station coffee. Another wedding. Another sea of polite smiles and clinking champagne glasses. Another mountain of dirty linens and half-eaten canapes. As I finally pulled into my driveway, the digital clock on my dashboard glared 2:17 a.m. 2 in the morning. On a Tuesday, my own car felt like a luxurious spaceship compared to the hulking catering truck I wrestled with all night. Just being in my own space, smelling the familiar scent of my worn cloth seats and old air freshener, was a tiny balm on my frayed nerves. But sleep? Sleep was a distant continent. My veins were humming with caffeine, a jittery undercurrent to the exhaustion pulling at my eyelids. And to make matters worse, my stomach was staging a full-blown rebellion. Hours of running around, lifting heavy trays, and inhaling the tantalizing smells of fancy food had left me paradoxically ravenous. Not for gourmet hors d'oeuvres, though. No, my body was screaming for something primal, something greasy, something unapologetically bad for me. McDonald's. The Golden Arches, a beacon in the pre-dawn gloom. There was one just a short hop off the highway, maybe 10 minutes from my place. Convenience incarnate. It wasn't like I was a fast food junkie. I actually prided myself on eating relatively healthy most of the time. But sometimes, just sometimes, that craving hits. That primal urge for salty, crispy, golden perfection that only a handful of McDonald's fries could satisfy. It was a weakness, sure, but it was a weakness I indulged in maybe twice a month tops. And tonight, well, tonight felt like a fries emergency. Knowing it was a 24/7 operation, I figured it would be deserted at this ungodly hour. Comfort food, I reasoned, was exactly what I needed to grease the wheels of sleep and finally, shut my brain off. So, I made the detour. Pulling into the McDonald's drive-thru, I was surprised to see a small line of cars ahead of me. 2, maybe 3. At 2:30 a.m. on a Tuesday? This wasn't exactly a bustling metropolis. My town was more of a sleepy suburb. This particular McDonald's wasn't exactly a hotspot, even during daylight hours. Still, maybe there was a late-night movie crowd I hadn't considered. Or maybe everyone else in town was also suddenly struck by a simultaneous, synchronized fry craving. Impatiently, I inched forward in the queue, my stomach growling a mournful ballad of hunger. While I waited, my gaze drifted, unfocused, around the parking lot. It was mostly empty, as expected, save for the drive-thru line and a few forlorn-looking trash cans swaying slightly in the cool night breeze. And then I saw it. Over in the far corner of the lot, tucked away in the shadows, was a car. An old Volkswagen Beetle, beat up, faded paint, and tinted windows. Blacked out, practically. It was backed into a parking spot, angled away from the building, facing the access road leading out of the lot. Odd. Really odd. The McDonald's itself was drive-through only at this hour. The brightly lit interior of the restaurant a tantalizing but inaccessible promise. Why would anyone be parked way out there, in the deserted corner of the lot? Employee parking was on the opposite side, clearly marked with reserved signs. My mind started to churn. Was it an employee on break? Unlikely, given the location and the tinted windows. Was it someone waiting for a ride? Possible, but still weird. The car just radiated a sense of wrongness. It was out of place, like a glitch in the Matrix. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was just someone eating in their car. I'd done that myself plenty of times, grabbing a quick bite and not wanting to drive all the way home to eat. I mean, who was I to judge? Still, that unease, that prickling sensation at the back of my neck, it was starting to creep in. I finally reached the speaker, rattled off my order, a large fry, classic, nothing fancy, and paid at the window. As I pulled away, clutching the warm bag of greasy goodness, I couldn't shake the image of that Beetle. It just sat there, silent, watchful, in the inky blackness of the corner lot. I didn't want to go straight home. Not yet. The fries were calling to me, a siren song of salty satisfaction, but the thought of just sitting in my apartment alone, with that lingering unease crawling under my skin, didn't appeal either. I needed an intermediary space, a place to decompress, to eat my fries, to maybe, just maybe, shake off this growing sense of unease. My mind drifted back to high school, to late nights and bad decisions, whispered secrets and shared laughter under the cloak of darkness. And then it hit me. The nature preserve. It was practically down the street from my house, a sprawling expanse of woods and trails perched on a mountain overlooking the town. At the peak, there was a scenic lookout, a panoramic vista of the city lights twinkling below. During the day, the preserve was a haven for hikers and nature lovers, families and dog walkers. But after dusk, after the park rangers locked the gates, it transformed. It became something else. A narrow, winding road looped around the perimeter of the preserve, snaking its way up to the summit and the lookout point. During operating hours, the road was open to cars, making the peak easily accessible. But once the preserve closed for the night, the road was barricaded, car access denied. Still, the road itself remained, a paved path leading to the peak, bypassing the need to trek through the dense woods in the dark. Back in high school, the lookout was the spot, the default hangout. Whenever we wanted to escape, to breathe, to just be, we'd pile into someone's beat-up car and head for the preserve. We'd park at the gravel pull-off just outside the gate, hike up the road to the peak, and just exist. Talk, listen to music, maybe sneak a cigarette or two, and mostly, just soak in the view, the cool night air, the quiet hum of the city spread out beneath us like a glittering carpet. I hadn't been back there in ages. Life, work, the relentless grind of adulthood had conspired to keep me away. But tonight felt different. Tonight, the idea of the lookout, of the quiet solitude and the familiar view, was intensely appealing. A rush of nostalgia washed over me. Yeah, the preserve. That was it. That's where I'd go. I made a U-turn, the warm bag of fries nestled beside me on the passenger seat, and headed towards the preserve. The drive was short, familiar streets blurring past in the darkness. Soon, I was pulling into the gravel patch that served as the unofficial parking area, just outside the preserve gates. Empty, completely deserted. Perfect, or so I thought. Before I could even cut the engine, headlights flashed in my rearview mirror, illuminating the interior of my car. Another vehicle was pulling into the lot. A wave of unease washed over me again, stronger this time. Who else would be out here at 2:45 a.m., heading to a closed nature preserve? And then, in the glare of their headlights, I recognized it. The shape, the faded paint, the tint. It was the Beetle, the same damn Volkswagen from the McDonald's parking lot. 100% certain. My breath hitched in my throat. parked a little ways away from the entrance to the path. I killed the engine, the sudden silence amplifying the pounding of my heart in my ears. What were the odds? Of all the McDonald's in all the towns, of all the nature preserves in all the counties, they were here. 2. Had they followed me? The thought sent a shiver down my spine. My window was cracked open, letting in the cool night air, and I strained my ears, listening. No music coming from the Beetle, no voices, just silence. For a good minute, nothing happened. The Beetle just sat there, inert, like a black metal bug lurking in the shadows. Slowly, cautiously, my initial fear started to recede, replaced by a reluctant rationality. Okay, calm down. They were probably just doing the same thing I was. Out for some fresh air, maybe a smoke. This was a popular spot for that kind of thing, even at this hour. It was a coincidence. An unsettling coincidence, sure, but still, just a coincidence, right? I told myself I was being paranoid. Ridiculous, even. But the prickling sensation at the back of my neck refused to subside. Something felt off. Terribly off. Even though my brain was trying to rationalize it, my gut was screaming warnings. I sat there for another minute, paralyzed by indecision, the bag of fries growing lukewarm on the seat beside me. Should I just go home? Cut my losses, ditch the fries, and lock myself in my apartment? Maybe, but I really didn't want to leave. Not yet. I wanted those fries. I wanted that view. But I definitely didn't want to be alone. My fingers fumbled for my phone. Sebastian, my best friend. He lived just a few minutes away. Yeah, Sebastian. That was the answer. I'd FaceTime him, distract myself, maybe even convince him to come hang out. I told myself that if he didn't pick up, I'd take it as a sign, eat my fries in the car, and drive straight home. No detours. The phone rang, once, twice. Then his face popped up on the screen, blurry and bleary-eyed in the dim light of his bedroom. Dude, what's up? It's like prehistoric o'clock. His voice was thick with sleep. Seb, I said, trying to sound casual, even though my heart was still doing a frantic drum solo in my chest. You awake? He blinked slowly, trying to focus. Barely. Trying to wrestle this stupid essay into submission. Why? What's going on? Listen, you busy? Or just essay busy? He yawned, a wide, dramatic yawn that stretched across his face. Essay busy. Procrastination busy, mostly. Why? You need something? Maybe company? I'm at the preserve lookout. Just craving fries and a view. Kind of feeling restless. Thought maybe you'd want to swing by? Hang for a bit? Take a study break? A pause. I held my breath, watching his face on the screen. Come on, Seb, say yes. Please say yes. Preserve lookout? He repeated, rubbing his eyes. At almost 3 in the morning? Dude, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Just restless. It's a nice night. Stars are out. Fries are hot. Well, lukewarm now, but still. Come on, man. Nostalgia trip? Like old times? Another pause. I could practically see the gears turning in his sleep-fogged brain. Then, a slow grin spread across his face. Nostalgia trip, huh? Preserve lookout at 3 a.m.? Okay, fine. Twist my arm. Gimme 10 minutes. 10 minutes? Seriously? You're a lifesaver, man. Relief flooded through me, so potent it almost made my knees weak. Yeah, whatever. Just don't eat all the fries before I get there. He chuckled, then the call disconnected. 10 minutes. 10 minutes felt like a lifetime. While I waited, I kept my eyes glued to the Beetle in my rearview mirror. It still hadn't moved. Still just sat there, a silent, ominous presence in the shadows. I tried to shake it off, to convince myself I was overreacting. Paranoid. But the feeling, it just wouldn't budge. Something was off. Something was definitely, terribly off. Finally, headlights appeared on the access road, sweeping across the gravel lot. Sebastian's beat-up Honda Civic rattled to a stop beside my car. Thank God. Just seeing his familiar, goofy grin as he climbed out of his car was enough to loosen the knot of anxiety in my chest. Dude. Fries. You actually brought fries? You're the best. He grinned, already reaching for the bag. Hey, sharing is caring, I said, a nervous laugh escaping my lips. Come on, let's walk. Views waiting. We both got out of our cars, the gravel crunching under our feet. As we started walking up the paved path leading towards the woods, away from the parking lot, away from the road, almost as an afterthought, I glanced back over my shoulder. The Beetle, it was still there, but something had changed. All 4 doors were open. 4 figures were stepping out, just standing there, not talking, not moving towards us, just standing there, looking at each other, looking around. It was freaky, unsettling, like a scene from a bad horror movie. I nudged Sebastian, a sharp jab to his ribs. Seb, look. He followed my gaze, his eyes widening as he took in the tableau in the parking lot. Before they could see us looking, before they could register our presence, we kept walking, faster now, deliberately turning our backs to the lot, letting the trees and the darkness of the woods swallow us whole. The parking lot receded from view, swallowed by the curve of the path and the dense foliage lining either side. Alarm bells were going off in my head, a deafening cacophony of warning signals. But Sebastian, bless his oblivious heart, didn't seem that concerned. Dude, chill. They're probably just going out to smoke, like we used to, remember? He chuckled, trying to lighten the mood. Yeah, but 4 of them? At 3 in the morning? And that car, it was at McDonald's too. I couldn't shake it. The pieces were clicking into place, forming a picture that was anything but reassuring. McDonald's? What are you talking about? Sebastian frowned, oblivious, still focused on the fries. Never mind. Just keep walking. Faster. My pace quickened, my breath coming in short, shallow gasps. I could feel my heart pounding against my ribs, a frantic rhythm echoing the rising panic in my chest. We kept walking, the paved path winding upwards, deeper into the woods, leaving the unsettling tableau behind. But the image of those 4 figures, emerging from that blacked-out Beetle, just standing there in the darkness, remained seared into my mind, a chilling premonition hanging heavy in the cool night air. By the time we reached the lookout, the city view, as always, was breathtaking. A glittering tapestry of lights spread out beneath us, a million tiny pinpricks of civilization against the vast black canvas of the night sky. The cool night air, the distant hum of traffic, the familiar panorama. For a fleeting moment, it was enough to distract me, to push back the rising tide of unease. We settled onto the low rock wall that bordered the edge of the cliff, a flimsy barrier against the sheer drop into the darkness below. It was our spot. We'd spent countless hours perched on this very wall, sharing secrets, dreams, anxieties, under the watchful gaze of the stars. We ate our fries, talking, laughing, falling back into the easy rhythm of our old friendship. It was nice. For a while, it was almost like old times. Of course, that feeling couldn't last, because life, as I was learning, had a nasty habit of snatching away moments of peace just when you started to believe in them. We heard voices. At first, just a faint murmur carried on the night breeze. Then louder, clearer. Talking, laughter, approaching rapidly. Too rapidly. We turned around, instinctively, our easy laughter dying in our throats. And there they were. 3 guys, walking towards us, emerging from the shadows of the trees lining the path, sharing something that looked suspiciously like a blunt. They were acting friendly enough, smiles plastered on their faces, relaxed postures, that faux casual swagger teenagers perfected. For a split second, relief flickered through me. Maybe Sebastian was right. Maybe I was just being paranoid. Maybe they were just kids, out for a late-night smoke, drawn to the same view we were. Instead of finding their own spot, though, they walked straight towards us, deliberately, like they had a purpose, like they wanted something. The leader, the one holding the blunt, was imposing. Tattoos snaked up his neck and peeked out from under the sleeves of his hoodie. A silver nose ring glinted in the moonlight. He had that hard edge, that air of barely contained menace that some people just seemed to radiate. He flashed a half smile, a practiced, insincere gesture that didn't reach his cold eyes. "Yo," he drawled, the words stretched out and lazy, but somehow still threatening. "You guys mind if we join you?" No," Sebastian stammered, glancing nervously at me. "We're just leaving." He started to stand up. "Leaving? Why? Party's just getting started." The tattoo guy grinned, a wider, more unsettling version of the first smile. He stepped closer, his two friends flanking him, forming a loose semicircle around us. One of them, a skinny kid with shifty eyes, let out a snorting laugh. "Yeah, don't be rude. We brought the good stuff." He gestured with the blunt, offering it towards us. "No, thanks," I said quickly, my voice tighter than I wanted it to be. "We're good." "Good? Nah, man. You ain't good till you've had some of this." Tattoo guy's smile faltered, his eyes narrowing slightly. His friendly facade was starting to crack, revealing something colder, harder, underneath. The skinny kid scoffed, a short, ugly sound. "Yeah, what? You too good to smoke with us?" Sebastian, bless his confrontational spirit, actually scoffed back. "Too good? No, just not interested. Thanks anyway." He was still standing, tense, ready to bolt. Curiosity, or maybe just plain stupidity, got the better of me. My brain was still trying to process everything, to make sense of the escalating weirdness. "Hey," I blurted out before I could stop myself. Were you at McDonald's earlier?" The effect was instantaneous. Like I'd flipped a switch. Tattoo guy's smile vanished completely, replaced by a hard, cold stare. His eyes narrowed, focusing on me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. His two friends mirrored his expression, their faux-friendly demeanors dissolving, revealing blank, hostile faces. Silence descended, thick and heavy, broken only by the distant hum of the city. They didn't say anything, just stared, unblinkingly, uncomfortably. And then, it hit me. A wave of icy dread washed over me, so powerful it almost knocked me off my feet. There were 4 guys in that Beetle. I'd seen them. 4 doors opening, 4 figures stepping out. But there were only 3 guys standing in front of us now. One was missing. In that moment, every rationalization, every attempt to downplay the weirdness, crumbled. This wasn't just a coincidence. This wasn't just some teenagers out for a smoke. This was something else. Something wrong. Terribly, dangerously wrong. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to run. Now, I glanced at Sebastian. His eyes were wide, his face pale in the moonlight. He knew it too. He felt it. The shift. The danger. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Tattoo Guy spoke. His voice was low, gravelly, devoid of any trace of the earlier friendliness. "McDonald's? Yeah. So? Just wondering," I stammered, trying to play it cool, even though my heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. "Thought I recognized your car." He tilted his head, his eyes still locked on mine, unblinking, predatory. "Recognized my car? You a cop?" No, man, definitely not a cop. Just weird seeing you guys here too. That's all. Lame. So lame. But it was the best I could come up with in my panicked state." He continued to stare for another long, excruciating moment. Then, slowly, deliberately, he reached up and pulled the hood of his sweatshirt up, obscuring his face in shadow. Then, he pulled it back down, revealing a McDonald's uniform. Just the top half, the red polo shirt with the Golden Arches logo. "Worked a double," he said, his voice flat, emotionless. "Just got off. Always come up here after work. Chill with my boys. Smoke a blunt. What's it to ya?" The McDonald's uniform. It was like a poorly acted reassurance. Like he knew we wouldn't believe him otherwise. And maybe that was enough for Sebastian. He seemed to relax, just a fraction, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly. But for me, it didn't work. Something was still off. Terribly, terribly off. The missing 4th guy. The blacked-out Beetle. The cold, predatory eyes. The sudden shift in demeanor. It all just didn't add up. "Right?" Sebastian said, his voice still a little shaky. Right, makes sense. Well, we should get going. Big day tomorrow. He started to back away, pulling me with him. Nice meeting you guys. Tattoo guy didn't say anything, just watched us, his eyes following our every move. As we started walking back down the path, away from the lookout, Sebastian stopped abruptly, grabbing my arm, pulling me to a halt. Dude, look. He pointed into the trees, to the left of the path, into the dense, inky blackness of the woods. And there he was, the fourth guy, half hidden in the shadows, lurking just beyond the edge of the path. He was holding something metallic, glinting in the moonlight. I couldn't make out what it was. Couldn't, or didn't want to. My heart lurched into my throat. Ice water flooded my veins. The moment the fourth guy saw us looking, saw that we'd spotted him, he moved. Not towards us, not away, just moved. Shifted his weight, took a step forward, emerging slightly from the shadows, his form becoming a little clearer in the moonlight. That was it. That was the breaking point. Run, I hissed, the single word barely a whisper, but urgent, desperate. And we ran. We bolted. Full-out sprint, down the path, back towards the parking lot, towards our cars, towards safety. Or at least, towards the illusion of safety. I didn't look back, couldn't look back, but I could hear them. Footsteps pounding on the paved path behind us. Getting closer, closer, closer. My lungs burned, my legs ached. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic, desperate drumbeat against the rising tide of terror. I could hear their voices too, shouts, yells, unintelligible in their urgency, but definitely, undeniably, chasing us. We burst out of the woods, back into the gravel parking lot, our cars looming ahead like salvation. We scrambled for the car doors, fumbling with keys, adrenaline surging through us, blurring our vision, making our hands clumsy and uncoordinated. I ripped open my car door, threw myself inside, jammed the key into the ignition, twisted, and prayed to whatever gods might be listening that the engine would turn over. It did. Thank God, it did. The engine roared to life, a welcome, reassuring sound amidst the chaos. I slammed the car into reverse, tires spitting gravel, and floored it out of there. Sebastian right behind me, his Honda Civic screeching in protest as he followed suit. As I sped away, glancing in my rearview mirror, I could see them. Those guys, rushing to get into their Beetle, scrambling into the blacked-out car that had haunted me all night. Were they following us? I didn't know, didn't want to know, just wanted to get away, to escape, to be safe, or as safe as I could possibly be after what had just happened. I didn't feel comfortable driving straight home. The thought of leading them right to my doorstep, of them knowing where I lived, it was too much, too terrifying. I grabbed my phone, dialed Sebastian's number, my hands shaking so badly I could barely punch in the digits. He answered on the second ring, his voice breathless, panicked. Dude, holy shit, what the hell was that? I know. Listen, don't go home. Not yet. Meet me back on your street. A few blocks from your house. Just anywhere but home. I don't want them knowing where we live. Good call, good call. Yeah, okay, on my way. But what the hell, man? What the hell just happened? We met up a few minutes later, parked side by side on a quiet side street a few blocks from Sebastian's house, engines idling, hearts still racing, adrenaline still coursing through our veins. We just sat there for a long moment, catching our breath, staring straight ahead, speechless, still reeling from the shock. I don't know. I finally managed to stammer, breaking the silence. I don't know what that was. Robbery? Maybe, but it felt like more than that, didn't it? Sebastian nodded slowly, his eyes wide, still reflecting the residual fear. Yeah, it did. Robbery, maybe. But they were just standing there, looking at each other, before we even got to the lookout. And then that fourth guy, in the woods, holding. What was he holding, dude? Did you see? I shook my head, a shiver running down my spine. No, couldn't tell, didn't want to know, just wanted to run. Sebastian pulled out his phone, his hand still trembling slightly. Dude, he said, his voice low, awestruck. Dude, you are not gonna believe this. He scrolled through his photos, then held out the screen for me to see. A grainy, slightly blurry photo, taken at night, in low light, but clear enough. Clear enough to make my blood run cold. It was a picture of the three guys. Tattoo guy, skinny kid, and the third one, the one who'd been mostly silent. They were standing together, backs to the camera, looking towards us, towards the lookout, towards where we'd been sitting just moments before. Sebastian had snapped it when Tattoo Guy had pulled his McDonald's uniform up, a quick, surreptitious shot, before things had really gone sideways. Holy shit, I breathed, staring at the photo. You got a picture? Why? He shrugged, a sheepish grin spreading across his face. Instinct? I don't know. Something felt wrong. I wanted proof. In case anything happened. Anything happened? I repeated, my voice laced with disbelief. Seb, we were almost mugged, or worse. And you're worried about anything happened? I know, it was stupid. But look, maybe we should show this to someone. The police? Maybe they can do something. The police. The thought hadn't even crossed my mind. I was still too caught up in the adrenaline, in the lingering fear, to think rationally. But Sebastian was right. Maybe the police could do something. At least report that McDonald's employee. Something about the whole McDonald's uniform performance still felt staged, unnatural. Yeah, I said slowly, the idea starting to take hold. Yeah, maybe you're right. But not tonight. Tomorrow, we go to that McDonald's. We show them this picture. We tell them what happened. The next day, fueled by nervous energy and a shared sense of grim purpose, Sebastian and I found ourselves back at the McDonald's. In broad daylight, the brightly lit fast food restaurant seemed almost innocuous. Normal. It was hard to reconcile the daytime normalcy with the terrifying events of the previous night. We approached the counter, scanning the employees, looking for someone approachable. Someone who might actually listen. We settled on a younger guy, maybe in his early 20s, with kind eyes and a hesitant smile. We showed him Sebastian's blurry photo and recounted our story, stumbling over words, trying to make sense of the disjointed, terrifying events of the night before. As we spoke, his eyes widened, his smile fading, replaced by an expression of dawning horror. When we finished, he just stared at us, speechless, for a long moment. Then, he leaned closer, lowering his voice to a conspiratorial whisper. You guys won't believe this, he said, his voice barely audible. That guy, the one in the picture, with the tattoos? We nodded, our hearts pounding in anticipation. That's Carl, he said, his voice trembling slightly. Carl. He used to work here. A few months ago. He had a girlfriend. Worked here too. Sarah. Sweetest girl you ever met. They broke up. It wasn't amicable. He didn't take it well. Not well at all. He paused, glancing around nervously, as if expecting Carl to materialize out of thin air. He started harassing her. At work. After work. Stalking her. Basically, it was bad. She was terrified. He got fired, obviously. But it didn't stop. She had to get the police involved. Restraining order. Everything. Restraining order. Stalking. Harassment. The words hung in the air, heavy and ominous. Restraining order? Sebastian repeated, his voice hushed. You mean, he's not supposed to be here? Not even near here? The young employee nodded, his face pale. Not within. I think it's 500 feet. Something like that. But he doesn't care. He's been camping out in the parking lot. For weeks. Just watching her. Waiting for her. The police, they've been called a bunch of times. But they can't always find him. He's like a ghost. Always lurking. Always watching. A ghost. Lurking. Watching. The words echoed the chilling premonition I'd felt all night. Carl. The tattoo guy. The McDonald's stalker. The man who had followed me to the preserve. The man who had chased me through the woods. The man who was, even now, according to this employee, lurking, watching, waiting. Sebastian and I exchanged horrified glances. The pieces clicked into place, forming a picture far more disturbing than we could have ever imagined. It wasn't about robbery. It wasn't random. It was him, Carl, and for some reason, he had chosen me. Or maybe it wasn't even about me at all. Maybe it was just proximity. Wrong place, wrong time, and I had just stumbled into his twisted, terrifying world. He followed me. I whispered, my voice barely audible. He followed me from here, to the preserve. But why? Why me? The young employee shrugged, his face a mask of fear and confusion. I don't know. Maybe he thought you were with her? Maybe he thought. I don't know. He's unhinged. Completely unhinged. Unhinged. That was the word. That captured it perfectly. Unhinged. And dangerous. Terrifyingly dangerous. I was praying, desperately praying, that the police would actually find him, this time. That they would finally put an end to his stalking, to his harassment, to whatever twisted game he was playing. But even if they did, even if they caught him, arrested him, put him back in jail, the fear lingered. The knowledge that he was out there, that he had followed me, that he knew what my car looked like. It had only been a week since that night at the preserve. A week of restless sleep, of jumpiness at every shadow, every unexpected noise. A week of constantly looking over my shoulder, of scanning parking lots, of avoiding late-night drives, of steering clear of McDonald's, and definitely avoiding the preserve. I hoped, prayed, that the police would do their job, that they would catch Carl, that they would keep Sarah safe, and that they would somehow, miraculously, erase the chilling memory of that night from my mind. But deep down, a cold, persistent voice whispered that this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. That this was just the beginning. And the worst, the truly terrifying part, was that I had absolutely no idea what was coming next. The unsettling truth is, you never really know who's watching you, do you? You go about your day, your life, thinking you're safe, secure in your routine, in your anonymity. But sometimes, just sometimes, the shadows move. And you realize, you're not as invisible as you thought you were. And that feeling, that cold, creeping dread, that's a feeling that'll stay with you, long after the lights come back on. So, what do you think? Chilling, right? But trust me, this is just the tip of the iceberg. If you want to know what happens next, if you want to see how this story unfolds, then you gotta let me know. Smash that like button, subscribe for more, and definitely drop a comment down below. Let me know you're out there, that you're listening, that you want to hear part 2. Because believe me, you haven't heard anything yet. This is just getting started.